From the Daily Beast, MAGA fooled by official RFK Jr. plan to ban pharma ads on TV. A post on X announced the Health and Human Services Secretary's plan to ban the ads, but no such plan exists. I don't believe you, Corbin Bolis. Is that how you say his name? I'll tell you why. So it was Unusual Whales, which is not some random garbage user account. This is like they get stories, man. Allies and adversaries of RFK Jr. alike were elated when an X post on Monday claimed that Health and Human Services Secretary planned to ban pharmaceutical ads from television. But Kennedy made no such announcement, and no such plan exists. Breaking, RFK Jr. has announced plans to ban pharmaceutical advertisements on television, wrote Unusual Whales early Monday. Unusual Whales is a service that provides data on unusual stock trading activity. Politicians and media personalities circulated the news, most of whom praised Kennedy for acting on this long-stated desire to bar such ads from the airwaves. Great idea, Hawley wrote. Huge conspiracy theorist Naomi Wolf chimed in. What about podcasts? MAGA podcaster Tim Pool mused. Interesting. I think most of us in the public health would support this. Dr. Ashish Jha, former President Joe Biden's COVID-19 response coordinator, wrote, though he noted the court challenges have impeded such efforts in the past. Indeed, it's the First Amendment. So they've put restrictions on pharmaceutical ads, but they can't block them because people have this right to speak up. But Liz Wheeler breaks down exactly why this would be tremendous. The corporate media will fail. You will watch before your very eyes as highly paid MSM anchors are fired, networks panic, and some shut down. Paychecks aren't paid. The entire business of mainstream media is a fake business, artificially propped up by massive ad dollars from pharma ads. Guys, I watch Fox News all day. It's nothing but drug commercials.
Right into my veins.
Yeah, I know. Is it America and New Zealand are the only places that have pharmaceutical ads on TV?
I gotta say though, Vanda Pharmaceuticals, you have the best commercials ever there. There's the one where all electricity shuts down in Paris, and this woman runs. For some reason, some random blonde woman is running full speed through Paris, climbs a tower, and then turns on all of Paris' electricity with a single lever. I don't know why Paris has that kind of switch that can disable the entire city.
So easy.
But while she's frantically running to restore the power, they're talking about a drug that might kill you. Then there's the other one for Fanapt. I just love this commercial, dude. It's for bipolar 1 disorder. You see, look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But the commercial's so good.
You weren't paid for this, right?
No, I wasn't. But I love the commercials because as the woman is trying to figure out how to lock the door to her store, it's telling you that the drug kills you. Yeah. It's like this German woman being like, Fanapt increases the QT interval, which is associated with heart arrhythmia and sudden death. And I'm just like, wow. Like, that's an advertisement.
There's a reason SNL used to make fun of those commercials in the 90s, and the commercials haven't changed.
So in all seriousness, I think all pharmaceutical ads should be banned, gone, none. If it's a prescription drug, you shouldn't be able to run those ads on TV. What do you guys think?
I love the idea, if only because it will destroy the mainstream media.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. I think all those drugs are poison, and they should go.
One thing that really, just shows the cards of the mainstream media on this issue. It's like they're instantly bringing up First Amendment protestations on this. Listen, I think everyone on this show loves the First Amendment. As one Australian politician recently put it, the reason we have these laws is because we don't have a First Amendment like they do in the United States.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. We do have that. You're not coming after my speech. This isn't speech. Why is it then that there are restrictions on tobacco and other types of advertisements, and yet pharmaceuticals get to claim this special First Amendment privilege when that wasn't extended to other types of advertisements? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. This is not at all what the First Amendment is designed.
A few years ago, I saw an interview with I think it was the CEO of Clearview AI, it's that facial recognition app, and he was saying that it was their First Amendment right as a corporation to collect all the faces off the internet, put in their database.
What?
Yeah. And this is kind of a similar thing. It's like the corporations are now, they have personhood. We're going to give them our rights.
It is a challenge, First Amendment wise, but I do, this is why I keep going back to this wartime presidency, because my views have changed quite a bit. I keep bringing this up today because it's top of mind, but I sat down with Konstantin Kaisin over at Trigonometry. I was on the Trigonometry podcast. It's going to come up I don't know when they're uploading the episode, but I really do recommend you guys watch the full thing. But one point he asked me when I said, Donald Trump should use the powers needed to preserve the union and stop the corruption. And he asked me the very basic question everybody asks, and I think is very naive. But I'm not saying he's naive. I'm saying it's a good question. But the response from most people is naive. Is what happens when Democrats take control and then use those powers against you?
They already do.
My response is, it doesn't matter what powers they use. Any leader who gets in and enforces amoral degeneracy, I have a problem with. And so no matter what we say we want today, it actually doesn't matter what the limit of the powers are. It matters the moral worldview of the individual enforcing the rules. The example that I give is, we ask the question, should parents have the final say in the healthcare decisions of their children? Yes or no?
Yes.
Unless they're going to abuse them.
And there's the problem. So your answer is no. The answer is
because
outright
it does
no.
come to a part where the parent's idea of care actually is real life abuse.
So you have two scenarios. In Florida, the parents say, we want our children to be trans. Should the parents have the final say?
No, because trans isn't real.
Okay, so
good answer.
Okay, now in California, the parents say, we don't think trans is real, so we do not want this for our kids. Should the state intervene?
No, the parents should get out of the state. I mean, look.
That's not what I asked. And the point I'm bringing this up is, when it comes to the banning of pharmaceutical ads, I literally don't care about your but my morals question. If we ban the speech today, Democrats will come and do something tomorrow. Understand this. If we had an amendment to the Constitution, the 20th Amendment said, all parents will get the final say as to the medical decisions of their children. The end result would be waves of parents giving their children sex changes without our ability to intervene. So do we want that principle enshrined in law? And when we're saying this, we're saying kids shouldn't be forced to take drugs when the parents are saying no. The state shouldn't be allowed to take the kids from the parents. Schools shouldn't be allowed to cover this stuff up. We're, of course, not saying that parents should be allowed to abuse their children. The issue is we want that enshrined in law. But as soon as a Democrat gets in, they reinterpret the principle and apply it in the other direction.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we say. So if we were to say right now, this is not free speech to sell prescription drugs to people that could kill them and mess them up, and it destroys this country. Free speech is the expressing of political ideas that we want, not selling products. Then, of course, we say, of course, I'm not talking about selling a sandwich. Then what happens? Democrat gets in, ban sandwiches. A really great example is in New York, they banned public drinking. And the city councilman that passed it at the time, they were concerned about homeless vagrants getting drunk. And the exact quote when they were passing this provision was, let it not be said that a man can't enjoy a beer with his lunch. That is not what this legislation does.
Doesn't matter.
Today, in New York, you cannot enjoy a beer with your lunch. That they banned this back before there was drinking and driving. People used to drink and drive, I think, what, in the 70s or something, like 60s?
60s probably.
So my point is simply this. Everybody keeps playing this game of we must be principled. And I'm like, bro, nobody has any agreement on what those principles are anymore. Being principled applies to a country with social cohesion. If everybody shares a moral worldview, we remain principled because we're saying don't be corrupt. But if you come to me and say, but Tim, if you say that Trump should arrest the corrupt politicians, Democrats will get in and do it too. And I'm like, actually, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I think
Democrats did this, and now Trump should too.
I think you're pointing out there's been an inversion for a long time on the right about how these principles actually work with one another. What you're pointing to is like, and the complaint about abusive parents, right? In the case of abusive parents, whether that's sex changes or physical abuse or whatever. If a second order principle is not in service of a higher principle, which is our view of there are things that are morally right and things that are morally wrong. If someone has hijacked that, then that principle is no longer in service of the common good. I go back to Aquinas and what he says about what law is. Law has to be in service of the common good.
Yeah.
If it's not in service of the common good, then you are free to politically, prudently reject that law. These aren't, the left and their efforts to, trans the kids. There's no way that can be interpreted as some sort of positive moral good in a world where there is any sort of rational world where we can determine what is right, what is wrong, what is black, what is white, etc. I think you're absolutely right on this. Like, this wartime presidency thing is actually a recovery of higher values in our politics that have been completely destroyed because people latched on to these secondary principles, right? Wanting to have a say over your child's education or over your child's well-being, and made that the entire ballgame. When, like, actually we need to get back to the most basic stuff, which is, no, everybody, there is a right and a wrong. The world was created by God. He has a plan for you, right? Like, you have to get back to that.
So here's where we are.
Totally agree.
There was a time when this country was morally cohesive. We had a dominant moral worldview. It was based on Christian moral ethics. Whether atheists want to accept it or not, it's actually a fact. You can disregard it. That's what you get with wokeness and liberalism today. In this period, we believe in free speech. Can you guys tell me one time this country has ever actually believed in free speech? Because the answer is it never has.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to drag this country, the United States, it's a great country, but when they actually ratified the Bill of Rights, blasphemy was still illegal. You can go to small towns and they'd string you up, they'd kick you out, they'd criminally charge you for obscenities. Speaking obscenities in public was illegal even in the 1970s. In fact, the Second Amendment, when was that ever protected? We argue about the NFA. Please, you couldn't carry a gun on your person until 2008 with DC versus Heller. So we like to look at the Constitution, and I will say this. We have been winning tremendously over a long period of time towards those goals in the Bill of Rights. But the Founding Fathers never intended for any of them to be applied this way. Because, like, I'll say it again. You go back to the Founding Fathers, stand up in one of their congressional congresses and start cussing and blaspheming, and they'd have you arrested. And they'd say, we're not talking about the free speech to do that. We're talking about the right. Peaceably assemble meant that individuals could gather in a room and hold a Continental Congress of the King coming and shutting it down. My point ultimately is this. When our country is morally unified, we think we're operating under these principles. But the truth is, the moment someone speaks out something nasty, we throw them under the bus. To be fair, in the past 30 years, you could say the most important things in the world, you wouldn't get thrown in prison for it. You go out and do Nazi stuff, you won't go to prison for it. And that's the important point. But that's still a recent development. Today, my point is simply this. There is no moral cohesion in this country. The woke think being mean to people is violence and will enforce that law against you. They argue that incitement to violence is not free speech. The right then agrees. They then say, and disparaging a group and calling them evil monsters is inciting people to attack them. We then disagree. Doesn't matter. You will get a judge who will bang the gavel and say, of course, if you demonize a whole group of people, people will attack them. And so your principle of free speech is meaningless in the context of your morals. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.